flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eric, can I stop and just make sure everybody online can hear?
Make sure everybody can hear.
Nicole, can you guys hear?
And we do not have a clock up there anymore.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hey, we hear Nicole on this one.
They
All
don't want
right,
us to.
Nicole is zoomed in. Arla is not here due to her having a work conflict. So with that being said, are we moving into your presentation? Okay. All right, let's move into your presentation.
Okay, we had a levy election earlier this week on Tuesday, February 11th. And unfortunately, we did not get the result, at least at this point in time, nor does it appear that we will get the result that we hoped to get. So, next slide. So our election results, this is as of yesterday afternoon, show that our North Mason levy is not passing. And so the board needs to make some decisions, and we want to talk about what the board needs to do and why we're meeting so quickly. That's will come up in a future slide. I'll wait for her. I have a couple of slides to talk about some of the information to tell us about things that happened or might have happened with the levy that I want to do first. Thank you, sir. So this comes directly from the Washington State Elections website. This pie chart shows that of the total ballots in Mason County by age group, of the ballots turned in, people who voted, what age groups they belong to. So if you look at this chart, most of our parents of school-age children would be in, mostly in the fuchsia or hot pink and the middle purple, not the navy color at the bottom, the darker purple. So of those 25 to 34, 11.82% of registered of our total vote was in that group. Of those 35 to 44, 15.89 of the total vote was in that age group. If we go a little farther, because some of us were older parents of high school kids, of the 45 to 54 age group, only 14% of our total voters were in that group. Of the people who voted in the Mason County school elections this time, the largest group was the group of people 65 and older. Now, I'm not implying that everybody 65 and older voted no, but I am saying it's important that our parents vote however they're going to vote, because they're making a decision that has direct impact on what happens to their kids. And one of the considerations for us as a district is, how do we get more parents to vote? The next slide. Just another way of looking at this is also from the Washington State Department of Elections website. This shows of the total ballots in each age range, how many were returned. So again, the age group that returned, of the total number of people that had ballots in the 18 to 24 age range, to make sure you're reading this, 16.3% of those people voted. Of the people 25 to 34, 22.7 of that whole group voted. So again, the groups that the 35 to 44, only 30% of those people voted, but they are probably more impacted on a daily basis than most other people who live in our community by the results of the levy. So again, I think I would make a recommendation that we need to find out from our families what we need to do to get them out voting. So, any questions so far?
I see that it says percentage of ballots returned, but what was it was here and I missed it, the amount of ballots that were returned?
This is of all the ballots returned,
It doesn't say how many.
that's on the first one.
I,
The total numbers are on there. There are about 150 votes still not counted in Mason County. And 25, as of this morning, still not counted in Kitsap County for our election. So, anything else, board members? Nicole?
Nicole? You good?
Okay.
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. So I think it's important to understand how levies elections work, because we're here for the board to consider what to do next. And we asked for a levy because we need the community's support to help us fund all of the things that we do in schools. And we worked really through a process with our levy committee to determine the amount we could best get by on without being extravagant. And that was the amount that went into the levy. You'll see in a later slide, we don't in North Mason ask for the total amount possible. We ask for the amount we need, and that does impact the impact on our district of not passing a levy. So we'll come to that pretty soon. So we'll go ahead. In Washington State, with school levies, you have 4 potential dates that you can run a levy. You can run one in February, you can run one in April, you can run one in August, or you can run one in November. That's 4 times during a calendar year. However, of those 4 times, you can only use 2 of them. So if you do 2 in 2025 and they're both unsuccessful, then you're done until you hit 2026 again. So the dates for this year are on this slide, and they are, the next one is April 22nd. The part of the reason to do this now, or the reason to do this now instead of at a regular scheduled board meeting, is that the board is going to determine that they want to try to turn it around and have the conversations that need to be had with the community and help us get the right vote, get the vote out there and get the yes vote out there. For April, we have to do all the background work to get that on a new ballot by next Friday. And so that is before we have another scheduled board meeting. So that's the April deadline. In August, all of that work you have until May to get the paperwork and the ballot work done. And in November, you have until August. So we can pick another time this year to try again. We have to think about all the reasons why we would pick which time. Okay. So there's a lot of impacts to consider. We've tried to condense them into a few slides. I'm anticipating board members might have some questions that Assistant Superintendent King can help respond to as well. But we'll go ahead and talk about some of those right now. We've been crunching some numbers since Wednesday morning, and we knew going into the levy that this year we had to make some adjustments in enrollment. And so we were facing a place where we were not going to be meeting our ending fund balance requirement from the board for the 2024-25 school year. So part of the budget planning for 25-26 was going to require that we make some adjustments that help correct that to get us back to the required fund balance that is in board policy during that school year. And that is a required 8 to 10% fund balance, and 8 to 10% of our fund balance is currently the minimum required to meet 1 month's bills, maintenance, operating costs, and salaries for the district. So, as of January 31st, our updated end of the year ending fund balance has been updated to $1,570,939. Last month, that number was a lot scarier. It was just $672,579. We've been able to claim some additional grant funds. We've had some other funds come in. We've been really looking at ways to cut and find other revenues, and so we need to continue to improve that. But as you know, we were looking at a significantly lower than expected projected fund balance because our enrollment didn't come in the way we projected it did with this fall. We had lower enrollment in alternative learning and significantly lower enrollment in kindergarten this year than anticipated. So, the budgeted year-end fund balance that would have been just barely at 8% was $2,705,032. So the shortfall between where we're projecting it right now and where we wanted it to be was $1,134,093. So those were adjustments in the budget we were planning to make with, or even had the levy not been, had the levy been successful. Those were adjustments that we were looking to make. So now the levy total amount was $5,577,446 per calendar year. So where we stand right now with a levy that hasn't passed is that next school year, because it is a split year, 25-26, we will collect the second half of the collections for the 2025 levy year. And we will have a collection of, we won't have a collection unless we pass a levy for the spring, the first collection in 2026, which would be projected to be $2.9 million at $2,934,852. And that spring collection is a little more than half of the yearly collection. It's usually just over 52% because of the way the tax bills work. So when we put those two together, we're looking at a current adjustments that need to be made in next year's budget of $4,068,945, which is 9% of our current budget. Now, as I said before, in most districts, just not having a levy would have districts looking at a 12 to 15% budget deficit. But because we are frugal with our money, it's a smaller percentage, but it's not insignificant. Questions? Okay. Next. So, those of you who were at our levy information nights are familiar with a lot of the content on this slide. What we need to be really clear about is that programs that have any part of their funding attached to the levy are at risk. These include extracurricular activities, staffing costs for positions that are outside the state model. For example, for us, for teaching staff right now, our state prototypical model funding for teaching staff, our apportionment, is 18 positions short of what we have on staff. So if the only money we have to pay for teachers' salaries and benefits is from the state prototypical funding model, we have 18 teachers that would be in jeopardy with their positions. And in that teaching group are a variety of people. That includes school nurses, like custodians, counselors, substitutes, arts programs, elementary specialists, other staffing costs that are included, and we're not as specific yet with our classified positions, but only about 30% of our classified positions are funded by the state. So we have to be really digging deeper into what exactly positions in that category we can't do without, and where we're gonna fund any additional ones that we keep that we need for safety and security of students and staff, not necessarily safety and security people, although they would be included in what we have to look at, but parapros to support in the classroom and all of those kinds of positions. Technology, maintenance, curriculum, purchases, devices for staff and students to use, upgrades to those devices. One of the things we anticipated in the security area and safety, spending some levy funds on was updating cameras in all of our secondary buildings and adding a adequate camera system to both elementary schools. We're gonna look for grants now, but that is not something that we're going to be able to do. Looking at excess costs in special education, elective classes. Again, like I said already, safety and security, communication support, unfunded transportation expenditures, that includes things, any kind of midday bus rides, going to Sound Tech, doing field trips, anything outside of to/from transportation. And then any additional administrative costs that are not part of the state model, those will all be looked at as well. Any questions?
Are our McKinney-Vento student transport, is that part of this budget or is that a separate budget?
It's part of our transportation budget, but it is very woefully inadequate.
Yeah.
In fact, currently the bill that's running in the legislature to improve the McKinney-Vento transportation would give us for the year per student that meets that category, $495, $400. But if we're having to drive one student on one bus all the way, which we have had to do before, to the south end of Olympia or up to the Kingston Ferry, or even at one point we had to drive down to Longview, $495 is not gonna go very far in this year. So, and we will have to do those because that's law, so we will have to find somewhere else that we're not doing something to make that happen. So, very good question.
Thank you.
Yes, Dan?
And I do want to say, because, you know, people might be aware of this, there is a process called Transportation Safety Net that districts can apply for additional funds to offset some of those costs for transporting McKinney-Vento students. But the state has a budget of $13 million for that, and their applications this year amounted to over $65 million. And so what you're requesting, whatever you receive is not gonna be as much as you actually need. They're gonna give you a percentage of what you requested.
And so we just got notice of that for us for this year. We got 25% of what what our need was.
But every year will be different based on how many districts apply and that amount compared to what was budgeted.
Yeah, okay.
So this year we got 25% of what we requested, but it doesn't guarantee we will get that same percentage in the future. Could be more, could be less.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
And again, as we go through a process, we're, as a board, beyond what we're doing today, as we engage in the budgeting process, which we're gonna start at this February meeting, we'll get really specific with details. And as we go out to talk about this with our community, we'll share very specific details and ask for their feedback on, this is what it looks like it needs to be, and what feedback we can gather, so. All right. So I did pull some examples, not to pick on any programs, but these are ones that people ask about and are concerned about, among many. So current expenditures in just two areas, school security, staff, and levy dollars used for athletics are on this slide. So currently, this year's levy dollars used for the athletics programs for students are $411,303.12. Security staff out of levy dollars, they're not fully funded out of that, but partially are $193,280.40. So combined, just those two areas would be $604,583.52. of that 4 million that we're looking for, and if we determined we needed to keep these, we would need to find a different way to do these than levy dollars. That's something I want the board to start thinking about as we're working through this process. And then we have staffing considerations. So, we'll get more detailed as we move through the process. Part of this process is including conversations with our admin team and with our bargaining unit leads so that we're all working together on, where we are and how things come out at the end. But, if we're funding with a no levy budget, we're going to have to look at staffing strictly to state apportionment levels. And that will result in significant cuts across the board in all, work categories, admin, classified, certs in each category. An example, and again, it's just an example, I'm not picking on NMEA Rob, the numbers are just quicker to pull. In 2020, the last time we had to do this, 18 certificated teaching positions were lost. Our current data, and it is data as I know it today, it will be refined in the next couple of weeks, would indicate that that would be about the same number of certificated teaching positions we would lose. But that could include counseling, nursing, some other things, so. 30% of our, roughly, it's a little more depending on which job, but roughly 30% of our classified employees are funded by the state, and the rest we fund either through categoricals or levy dollars. And unfortunately, our state legislature has now indicated that it's very likely that they will go into a special session, so we won't have budget information for next year in late April when we would like to have it, but probably more likely towards whenever that is, in June, another, after we have to make significant hiring or reduction decisions and have those conversations with staff. And in addition to that, several categorical dollars there's just a lot of questions and not a lot of answers right now, as decisions are being made and being questioned and being addressed. In the other Washington, the information that we have is that any changes to federal funding that we may see in school districts, we won't have a really good picture of for 60 to 90, and in some cases 120 days, as those processes about what cuts can and can't be made or will be made roll out. So we really need to we would need anyway to budget extremely conservatively, and this year it's even more important. And then just with all of that together, as we're working on staffing and we're looking at the budget, we're gonna be talking about it with the board coming up. We have deadlines for notifying our staff members in different bargaining groups if their job is going to be reduced. And we have deadlines where we have bargaining with 3 of our groups that will happen this year. We have bargaining, 4 maybe, ongoing with coaches, and then we have bargaining with teachers and with bus drivers and PSE, so 4 groups this year. That will also impact all the budget decisions that we're making. And then we have deadlines for submitting the budget. In the first submittal of the draft budget is due at the very beginning of July, and if we don't get the information until the end of June, we have to have decisions made before then. What would have to happen if numbers look better coming from the state, or if numbers become successful later in the year from any federal information or from passing a levy, we would have had to make some pretty tough decisions in almost every levy scenario except one, and have reduced our staff, made some program changes, and then hopefully be able to do a pivot and come back and look at things again. However, we would have lost really good staff, because if staff are reduced, they can't wait for us to find out later in the year if we're going to be able to offer them a position or not. So those are things I wanted you to have all of those pieces about in front of you for your thought and discussion as you looked at today. Do we consider, going out immediately in April? Going out in April is tight, and it would be being pretty intense about getting that feedback and those conversations and stuff in time. But it would also, be a stronger place for us to know what's happening for our kids going into the coming year, a better place for our staff, certainly, a better place for us to be able to budget and know that we have the right people in place to support our kids and the needs that they have as we go into the 25-26 school year. So,
What's our,
discussion.
what's our typical attrition year to year?
In staff,
Yeah.
well, it used to be easier to say, more typical.
Yeah.
It used to be for a district our size, in teachers, we might see 10 to 15,
Yeah.
but currently, I got one today, but I have 3. So,
Okay.
that are retiring or not returning, so that's much lower than usual.
Yeah.
So that means, we have staff who are non-continuing or
Non-renewal.
we have staff who are provisional, wrong word, sorry, who in their first 3 years, or if they're coming from another district in their first year in North Mason. So those staff have slightly different, contract rights than other staff. And they can be non-renewed, through a process that does not require a board vote. All of our personnel stuff comes through a board vote, but it does not require a process and a resolution. If we had to go deeply into the certificate, and this is just for certs, if we had to go deeper into the teacher pool, then we're in a RIF situation, a formal reduction in force, and that requires bargaining, and that requires a deeper level of involvement in the board on the process. And that would need to be done. If we had to go there, we would need to be doing that work in the April board meeting, right after the April levy. So we would know one way or another for that. But if we didn't do the April levy, we would definitely, if our cuts needed to go that deep, we would need to do that then. So,
What else you got?
That was it for me.
Leanna?
I was just looking at our percentages of how the percentage that came out this time, and then all of our percentages from before, of like if this was just way off. And I know we look at like 36% of the people that voted out of all the people that are registered. And I mean, it's typical. I mean, 38% I think was the highest we've got. I'm just weighing it out for my brain for.
well, and I will say, I was curious, so when I did the second 2 slides that I got from Washington that showed ballots returned by age range, and then the percentage of our total vote by age range, it was pretty close to typical for the rest of the state on the elections that were run this February. We didn't have fewer groups of parents vote than other, a little bit than some of the more successful levies, but total votes, we were about the same.
And my question was before, to clarify that one, when I said returned, I thought, I was asking if there was any challenged, and I found that one. That was, I was seeing what if that was a difference, and that was only 1.39%.
Yeah,
So it didn't make a difference.
No,
Not that it ever has, but it was something to consider.
Yeah.
Huh?
Anything else on that? No, we're good.
I mean, no, go ahead. I haven't heard.
No, Nicole,
Yes,
what are your thoughts?
I think we should hold off until we can gather some more information and possibly strategize a better plan with Christine's input. I know that I was busy, as you all were, with the superintendent search the past couple of months. And so I think, at least for myself, I would be in a better position to try to get out there and attend things and chat with people. And I mentioned earlier to Eric and Dana that I think we should be blunt with our community members and say these are the things that are going to be cut because the levy didn't pass. Please give us your feedback on our proposals for what should be cut until we get it passed.
Okay. And I really think the importance of understanding the why, right? When we look down at the safety and security, which is pivotal to know what's going on, right? It's unfortunate that when we're sitting here looking at, athletics and teaching and a lot of the stuff that's supported by the levy, and we're having to have this conversation now. Right, but I agree with Nicole. I think we need some community sessions, right, to gather feedback directly from the community of, hey, okay, we're going through this, but what can we change? What can we improve, right? I think doing exactly what you're talking about, Deanna, going through and looking at the budget and, really looking hard at things we can improve is super important, and I know you're constantly doing that. But we need to obviously take a little more scrutiny now with this. But I'm thinking in the Nicole realm of, holding off for a minute, because I know that April, we would need to submit it by February 21st, which is next week, and I don't think that gives us enough time to gather enough feedback to put it on the April 22nd election date. I just don't think we're gonna be able to gather enough info to know, hey, did we need to talk about more around safety and security? Do we need to talk about more of teaching and learning, and really go over a lot of these programs that Dana was talking about, and go through and kind of display and have some transparency and show, not that we're not having that, but really highlight the cost of a lot of those programs specifically. So I know that on the school's website, on every single board meeting, just if anybody wants to go read, you can look up on any board meeting, click on the budget report, and go through and look at every single expense that we've made. It is on the district's website, right? It is not easy to look through. It's a very, very tough read, right? But that information is there. So, but that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Danny,
Yeah, I hear the board. I just want to make sure I was clear enough that if we don't go in April, we will make all the staffing cuts. And the board, and if the district is fortunate enough to pass a later levy, you will hopefully hire back some of those staff members, but we will lose really good people who serve our kids now. And I just want to be really clear about that as you consider what you're going to do.
I think.
Oh, go ahead. You sure? No, I was just gonna say, I really appreciate that, because it does put us in a very difficult situation, because I personally, this is my opinion from my straw poll and going out to people, is I don't think we have the votes to pass it now. We need to show some sort of progress, or better show the progress we've already made to help voters help a few more voters to be on our side,
Sure.
So I feel like we need more time, but at the same time, like you said, if we wait, then that is a real challenge, because then we have to put those things into place. And since we only get to run this twice, I'm afraid to run it real quick and then it turn around and we haven't made the changes. But if we wait, then we're gonna have to make some really, really difficult choices.
If we don't pass it, if we didn't pass it in April, we would not be able to run it until next February.
Yeah.
Right?
So we would
Where
lose.
if we ran it in August or November, right, and we failed that, we'd still be able to run it again in February.
Yeah.
If need be. But, you know, I think we've just gotta, in gathering with some feedback that we had in the bond meeting, I think we probably need to start some more community-led meetings, and I would hope that, you know, a lot of folks would attend those. You know, that's kind of, I've been to every single bond meeting that we've had, and it's been a lot less folks showing up. And
Each time.
And
Yeah.
we need that support to get those get the community into those meetings. There's a lot of great information that comes out of those levy committees and bond committees that, a lot of stuff I've learned. I didn't know about a lot of the stuff.
And I do have to say, with the levy committee, first I want to thank Beth Ollie, who's here, who was at every single one of those meetings and worked so hard on this, and is a parent in this community. But even when we moved the levy committees to Zoom because people were so hard, it was hard to get people to attend. And people need to be a part of those conversations, like you said, so they understand what it is that we're asking them to support. And it was frustrating because we did very broad invitations to the whole community. We did very targeted invitations to community members as well, to really try to get people at both of those meetings. And we really want to encourage people, if people have concerns or questions or want things to be a certain way or different, they need to be a part of the work. They need to come be part of the team.
I think, that we should consider the turnout of the forums as data, instead of we need to gather more data, or we need to have more community information things. We do that a lot. We tend to offer that a lot. And then we tend to put out to the community that we need your help. And we do that a lot. But what I don't think that we've done, as a lot of us, and we've talked about it a lot, I know some of us do it, I know, and maybe it's not the door-to-door, but a lot of people go, oh, I didn't know there was a levy running. And I'm like, how did you not know? But I know because I'm here. And people here know because it's their jobs on the line. You know, I mean, people know, and they put it out as much as they can. But the people that, I mean, we typically get somewhere, nothing more than 40% voting. And some people that don't vote ever, I have asked them, please, if you don't vote, could you please use it, you want it to pass, but you don't vote, please consider doing it this time. And I've had people go, you know what, I'm gonna vote this time. But they were invited in that way, but I had to meet them where they were, and they were at home. And it was face-to-face, it was standing in the store, it was walking out, and I know that also takes time, but I know that we don't do that a lot anymore. And I think that's one of our missing pieces, big time. So, and we can try what we've been doing, but I think we should just, that is our data collected. And go forward and do the thing that we talk about. And it's painful, I mean, we work, right? I mean, I don't work, you know, but I do community things, and I use that as a time to talk, and but it's not as many people as I can reach, and I can go further. And I'm willing to, I mean, if anybody's watching this at home, I mean, I'm not trying to show up on your doorstep, but I might show up on your doorstep, so.
And that would, to do that effectively, and that's a really, really effective tool.
Yeah.
We need participation. to
Yes,
start
we
with.
do, yep. And that does take the community, as well. But also physically, I mean, all of us in the district, including the board and the teachers and everybody, if we wanna go out there and make it happen. Now, I don't know if running it this fast, but also I know we're going to lose it. You know, like, we might lose the next one because we can't get out there fast enough. So if we go for the August one, we shorten that time, because if we go out for a November one, or if we go out for the end of it, or we lose it next February, then we're definitely lost those people. So I feel like if we skip this next one, I know that's a scary thing, and I know that word's scary. People take that however they want, but that makes me nervous, to do that. But I think we kind of have to. And instead of having more forums or more opening up to the community to come, because we know what the turnout looks like. We've seen it for years. I think we try something different or do more on top of that and skip this next one and take that time to go and do that. That would be mine.
Nick?
No, it's just, it's not gonna be an easy choice. I feel like we need to, turn around it, rerun it. The people that are against it are very entrenched with their messaging and very entrenched with their mindset. And I would just like a little bit more time to spend with those folks, whether it be face to face or however, to try to show the good that we do, and also to show, like, look, I know you're upset that there's more taxes, or I know you're upset that the state should be funding more, but those are things that are out of our control. This levy is within our control, and if we say no to it, this is the direct result of what's gonna happen. And, we talk about security, we talk about improving classrooms, we talk about safety. All of these things aren't gonna get better with less teachers. They're not gonna get better with less extracurricular activities. They're not gonna get better with less paras, and, so,
Hold on a second.
yeah.
We're gonna take about a 5-minute break here, because folks are parked out front. If you're parked out where the buses are, we need folks to move their cars so the buses can get in to pick all the kids up. So we'll pause for about 5 minutes.
And we will
If
come
you need
back.
to go to the bathroom, we're gonna go for it.
Yes, thank you. And we'll come back.
Come back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, no, what, right, 219.
All right, 219 coming back.
Yes, I am.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. I was watching the clock. Okay, so Nick, as we were.
No, essentially, I was just saying, I think we should probably not do it right off the bat. I think we do need just a little bit more time. And unfortunately, that means that we're gonna have to go through a process, but that's what our voters essentially have said is the bare minimum that we do, so.
Agreed.
One more thing,
Yes, ma'am.
and you're gonna take a vote, but I would recommend that we reconstitute a levy committee and try to get more community involvement and help us share more information and help us make some decisions about how we share information.
100%.
Yeah.
I think, yes, I think we need to do that, and I think we need to look at how we were recruiting members. Maybe even putting flyers up, or go to a couple other community events and try to, one of us can go try to start tracking people down.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah.
Flyers are good, but like as a reminder,
Yep.
yeah.
So, okay, so I'll listen to a motion to postpone, not rerunning this in April, and postponing, coming up with a decision when to rerun it until a later date. If everybody, does that make sense? Is that right?
Okay, so that, I recommend that we postpone, to a later date on what you just said. All those words.
Basically, you could just say tabling the decision.
Yeah, tabling the decision.
Yes.
So, all in favor of tabling the decision on rerunning the levy at this time, favor by saying aye.
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 And aye as well. Anybody opposed? Nothing heard? Then that we will postpone a decision on rerunning the levy until a later date. See, all right. So with that said, our next board meeting is gonna be on the 24th at 6:30 right here in the boardroom. The agenda will be posted as always, a couple days before? Yeah, a couple days before, it'll
It's
be up
on
on the
there.
website. So, anyhow, I look forward to seeing everybody at the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.